Pool kicks woman out, has no idea why she's dressed like that. Jade was mortified, frozen in her tracks. She couldn't believe the two nasty women had done this to her, and in front of everybody too. She stood soaked in embarrassment while droplets of water from the pool trickled down her thigh. These women had no idea what Jade had been through the past 7 years. Then suddenly, Jade could feel anger boil deep in her system. As hot as lava it churned within, hungry for revenge. Jade knew she wasn't going to let these two women get away with it. No way. Jade Hughes was an ordinary 24-year-old who loved nothing more than hanging out with her friends. She was an outgoing young woman and the life of the party. But when Jade was just 17 years old, something happened that shattered her world. And now, 7 years later, after years of hard work and self-love, finally Jade felt confident and comfortable. But she had no idea that two nasty women were about to turn her world upside down. It was a warm summer day when Jade decided to go to her local swimming pool. She knew she had to take advantage of the glorious weather, so she gathered up her friends and all they headed over. She never could have expected that the day would end in shame, humiliation, and rage. When Jade and her friends arrived at the pool, straight away Jade was ready for a few hours of ultimate relaxation. It was just what she needed. However, as she walked over to a chair near the front of the pool, she could feel eyes burning into the back of her neck. Jade could feel everybody's stares and she started to feel self-conscious. She slumped herself on the chair and looked around. Everybody here wouldn't look out of place at a spin class in downtown law. Her friends included. She tried her hardest to dismiss people's stares, but it was a struggle. She had no idea what was coming to her. Jade felt completely out of her comfort zone at the pool, but she was determined to enjoy herself. When she stood up, she inhaled the fresh air, but then noticed that even some children were staring now. Jade swallowed her pride and smiled at an older woman who was staring at Jade. When the older woman replied with a smirk and a giggle, Jade had no idea that the police would soon be involved. Jade looked around and got herself ready to drop her towel again and bear all. Slowly, she sat at the edge of the pool, her legs paddling in the cool water. Then without a second to waste, she unwrapped her towel and slid into the swimming pool. It sure felt good, and finally Jade began to relax. But her relaxation was about to come to an abrupt halt. As she floated in the pool, Jade felt completely free. The coolness of the water soothed her skin. Jade could spend hours like this. But a mere 10 minutes after Jade had gotten into the pool, an older woman and a pool employee approached her. And they were looking for trouble. Jade's face went as red as an overripe tomato when she heard what the woman had said. And then she heard what the staff members said. She quickly got out of the pool, her blood boiling. Why were they telling her how to leave? Why would they do this? Jade hadn't done anything wrong. Had she? Jade squinted through the beaming sunlight and asked a staff member what she had done wrong. But what Jade heard was right. She couldn't believe it. She wanted the pool to swallow her whole. She had never been as mortified as now. Jade was not at all happy with the woman's answer. And she couldn't believe a staff member had agreed with her. Jade shouted back, demanding they tell her the real reason she had been singled out. She had an inclining as to why, but it was the 21st century and she genuinely didn't think it was possible. Even though she had prepared herself for the answer, she was still lost for words when they came right out and said it. Jade watches the older woman's saggy face move in the light breeze. Then she spat out, "You're scaring the children." Her words shot straight at Jade's heart. They had no idea what Jade had been through the past 7 years. Then, the woman and staff member pointed to the scar on her hip and the bag attached to it. Jade knew her body was different from the other women and young girls that were strutting around in their bikinis, but why should she be singled out and made to feel ashamed? Jade had just finally become comfortable with how she looked. But what was she going to do about it? The older woman and staff employee wouldn't let it go. They gave Jade an ultimatum. She would either have to cover up or leave. Jade was furious to hear this. Her blood boiled and she loudly refused to cover up. "If you expect to leave, then call the police, because I'm not leaving," she shouted back. Jade had already been through so much in her life to be treated like this. You see, when Jade was 17 she began to experience intense and horrible stomach pains. She had no idea what was causing it, and despite taking numerous medications nothing worked. Every hour of the day 17-year-old Jade was cradling her stomach. The pain had become unbearable. Determined to find out the truth, Jade went to her doctor, and there, Jade was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. Ulcerative colitis is a form of IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, that can cause inflammation and sores. Unfortunately for Jade, there was no other option besides surgery. Understandably worried and scared, Jade agreed to surgery and she went under the knife. In the surgery, which was unfortunately on her birthday, Jade had her large bowel removed. Her bowel was replaced with a drainable pouch called a soma, which was then attached to her body near her hip. After the surgery, Jade had a hard time adjusting to life with a bag attached to her hip. She hardly ever left the house and became a shell of herself. However, as time went on, and with a little help from her friends, finally Jade managed to feel more comfortable and confident. Despite the bag attached to her hip. But now, at 23 years old, Jade was back at that awful and terrible place. She was mortified, frozen in her tracks. She thought about just giving up and leaving the pool. But then her blood boiled. She wasn't leaving. No way. These women had no idea what she had been through. Despite what they thought, Jade loved her bag. It looked after her body every single day, and it fights infection. It keeps her alive. But when the police officers arrived at the pool, Jade just knew that they would be more sympathetic and be on her side. But she was so wrong. The police officers arrived at the park and to Jade's horror, they kicked out of her pool. Jade couldn't believe it. First the rude women at the pool, and now the cops. Escorting Jade out of the pool with spectators watching her every move, Jade's fists clenched and she knew she had to make them pay. But what was she going to do about it? Once Jade got back home, still reeling from the events of the day, she opened her laptop and started typing. She typed up the incident and posted it on her Facebook page. She took a deep breath before shutting her laptop and running herself a much-needed bath. But Jade never could have expected the response her post was going to get. Jade woke up the following day to see that her post had gone viral. Thousands of people all across the globe had expressed their sympathy for Jade. But Jade knew that merely online naming and shaming the two women wasn't going to be enough to satisfy her. She had to go bigger. Jade wrote out a formal complaint to the swimming pool company and then contacted the local media. She was even featured on the news later that night and received more support. Thousands of people were sending her their love to Jade, and that really did mean a lot. Since the incident at the pool, Jade hopes her story will inspire others to be themselves.